Welcome to Shining the Light. My name is S.E. Walibwa, and my guest is one and the only Jesse Iwuji. Jesse Iwuji is the first and only active duty U.S. naval officer competing in Nascar. He is also a Nascar driver analyst with NBC Sports. Jesse is also a keynote speaker. How are you, my brother? How you been?
Yeah, no, I've been pretty good, and thank you so much for having me on the show. The pandemic has definitely changed a lot of things over the last year, but I've been able to pivot a lot and continue to advance forward within my businesses, in racing, in the Navy, and everything else I do. So, at the end of the day, I think the theme of the last 15 months or so has been win the wait. A lot of times we've been put in a holding pattern, not knowing what's going to happen next. But, just because we're in a holding pattern doesn't mean you can't go make progress. So I've been trying to do everything I can to make progress in every facet of life.
Well, thank you for that. Let's start with your background. Where were you born? You were born here in Texas, right? And your parents come from Nigeria in the 80s.
Yeah. So originally born in Texas, Dallas, Texas. Me and my two brothers and my sister, we were all born and raised there by my parents. My parents, both of them immigrated from Nigeria to the U.S. Back in the 80s, and decided that Dallas, Texas was going to be where they settled. And, while growing up in Dallas, that's when I started growing this passion for football, because football in Texas is really big. So I naturally gravitated towards that, and that's what led me towards eventually playing football in high school, working really hard to get better and better and better. Eventually got recruited by the Naval Academy. Naval Academy recruited me, and then I ended up going to Naval Academy and playing college football there 4 years. Graduated in 2010, and next thing you know, I was an officer in the Navy. But while being an officer in the Navy, I started finding another passion, and that was racing. And I started getting into that by doing just little amateur track events, for a few years. And then that led me towards the wanting to become a professional driver. And that is where I'm at now today, finally, a professional driver racing in NASCAR at the top levels.
It looks like I'm going to skip a lot of my questions because I think you covered a lot of them. But I want to quickly go back to the Iwuji name, because when your father left Nigeria, his father, your grandfather, told him that, man, you got to make sure that you preserve our name, so don't embarrass us. It seems like he has done a lot of good work with that, because he raised you guys. You guys are doing good. Him and your mom, that pretty much thriving.
Yeah. So no, my dad, when he when he was coming over to the US, his dad pretty much told him, was like, hey, you bear the name of the family, don't go out to America and screw up. Don't go get in trouble. Don't embarrass us. Go out there and succeed. There's so much opportunity out there, way more than Nigeria. So go out there and make the best of it and succeed, and make sure that you honor the name. And that's what he did. And my mom also, she came out here with my dad, and they both together grew together, did a lot of great things together, and raised us, obviously, and put us in the best position that they could, so that we could go out and succeed also. And it's been one long journey, but definitely a very fruitful journey.
Here in America, some people work hard, right? But there are people who are working hard night and out, but they're not really achieving. So what really made your parents successful?
Well, in that same post, I also go into talking about that, because there are a lot of people who are working very hard, spending a lot of hours doing whatever they're doing, and maybe they're not achieving whatever they're trying to achieve in life. So in that same post, I also mentioned that don't confuse movement with progress, because a good example of that is, I can sit here right now and I can run in place as fast as I can. I can run in place. And a lot of movement happened. A lot of things just happened. A lot of kinetic energy, a lot of stuff happening. But did I really make any progress? Did I actually get to my destination? No, I moved my feet. I can move my feet as many times as it's needed to walk a full mile. But if I stand in place only, I'm not going anywhere. So don't confuse movement and progress. That happens a lot, especially, you look at entrepreneurs sometimes. They're like, hey, I'm starting my own business. And then they schedule 10 meetings a day and they have 10 meetings a day every single day. And all these meetings are like worthless meetings. Like they're not really doing anything, but you did a lot of meetings. So you spend a lot of time doing stuff. There's movement. There's definitely movement, but there's no progress. Like, were they meaningful meetings? Like, did this connection become a meaningful connection? Like when you spent all that time in the world trying to organize this or whatever, did you actually make progress? Some people are sit there for, months and months just trying to make sure that their brand logo is perfect. Okay, did you actually make progress in business? That was a lot of movement, but was there progress? So that's one thing my parents were all about. They were like, look, don't confuse the movement with progress. Like, progress every day. Like, do stuff that is actually moving us ahead. And it's a thing. Just because it's sometimes you'll do stuff and maybe it doesn't bring you ahead, maybe it takes you back, but at least you learn from it. But at the end of the day, you're going somewhere. Just don't do all the riffraff and think that that's moving forward. You need a step every single day forward. You got to go forward or try to go forward. And that's one of the biggest things that they showed me through their action.
Wow, that's really inspiring. In 2010, you graduated. You already mentioned a little bit. You graduated with a science degree. Then you became a football coach. Naval warfare is divided into 4 operational. I did a little bit of research on this one: surface warfare, air warfare, submarine warfare, and information warfare. And why did you go for surface warfare? Did they just pick you up, or you?
Yeah, for the surface warfare side, once I got to the academy, I knew that's what the route that I wanted to go. I wanted to be on surface. I wanted to be on the ships. Didn't really have a passion for being in a tin can under the water, the submarine. So I was like, I'm not going to go undersea warfare. And then aviation, I did like aviation. I thought it was cool. It's just at the time they have really stringent swimming requirements, and for me, I don't float very well in the water. So I was like, you know what, I can't go past those swim tests. I'm not going to. Yeah. So for me, surface warfare was where it was at. Being on the ships, I felt like that was the environment that was best suited for me, my personality, and my leadership traits.
Right. What are your thoughts on American militarization or its proliferation? Is it because of the competition that is out there, especially with countries like Russia and China, as we know that they are now, ramping up their antennas themselves?
Yeah, no, as this country has been for many, many years, we always have to stay on top as far as the military. At the end of the day, when somebody has a bigger stick, they'll use it. And we have to make sure we always have the bigger stick so that no one uses it on us. And people will still try. There will be organizations that still try. There will be countries that probably will still try. But at the end of the day, we have to maintain the bigger stick. That is what allows us to go out and project good and just kind of be a global police force. And I know there's some countries, there's some people who don't like us being a global police but at the end of the day, we have to, because if we don't, there's so many bad things that will happen. Back in the 1930s and 40s, when we weren't that global police, guess what happened? World War II. Wow. So we don't want that to repeat. And people forget. I know it's been a long time since World War II. None of us really ever lived during that time. But people forget that was a very bad time. I mean, I can't remember what the percentage was, but I think it's like 10, 15%. I can't remember what it is of the world's population died during during that time period. That's a huge, millions and millions of people. Imagine today us saying, in this war we just fought, 10 million of our people just died. Like, that's crazy. So, it was crazy times, but that's why we do what we do now, so that we don't have that anymore. And it might ruffle some feathers. Yeah, it might upset some people, but we'd rather have some upset people than having dead people.
In 2011, when you were still really fully in there, you're still fully in there. What happens, America took out
Osama bin Laden, yeah.
yeah. So as a civilian, people who are civilians, like, okay, no, we feel like, it's better. We've been protected. The military is doing good. The Navy, they're doing pretty good. I want to know your thought at that time, you as being part of the Navy.
Yeah. So back in 2011, they found Osama bin Laden. They were able to take him out. And that was really helpful in helping slowly bring. There's no real end to the war on terror. Terrorism is not ideal. You can't ever beat it, but you can help take away people who are continuing to push it forward and advance it. So, Osama bin Laden was one of those people. He was, a lead person on the other side, and we had to do what we had to do to eliminate him. And once we eliminated him, that helped us continue to fight and push back those evil forces and push them back to where they were really coming from. But that was super helpful. I mean, as you can see, we haven't had like a lot of big terrorist attack as far as foreign terrorist attacks over here. There's still some that will still happen. At the end of the day, we'll never stop them all. But if we can stop the big ones, that will be that'll keep more people safe. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be good people. There's always going to be bad people. I mean, people who just want to see the world burn. It's just how it is. It's life. So we got to find them as soon as we can and take them out of power.
Yeah. So Jesse, what is the responsibility of being in the Navy and representing the U.S. and NASCAR driver?
Yeah, so being in the Navy, being a NASCAR driver, it's definitely been tough as far as like the time management side. But I've been able to learn how to manage that over last 10, 15 years because, while at the Naval Academy, while being an officer active duty in the Navy, we're given so many different tasks and so many different things to do. So I learned during those times how to manage time well. And from there, I translated those skills over to what I was doing in NASCAR once I started racing in NASCAR, because I had to figure out a way to still manage my time in the active duty side of things in the Navy, and then also, be able to handle the NASCAR side of things. I'd do Navy work all throughout the week and then go race on the weekends. And then Monday morning, right back to doing Navy work. And I was doing that constantly every single week. It was a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. But I learned how to do it through, what I learned in the Navy. And that's what was able to keep me sane, and keep me going and, not burn me out.
So did you say you were able to apply some of the things that you learned in the Navy into race?
Yeah, a lot of things I applied from the Navy into my racing career. The time management side of things, stress management, being able to handle stressful situations, because in racing, there's a lot of stressful situations, whether it's on track or off track. Off track, you're trying to figure out sponsorship obligations. You're trying to figure out where you're going to get your next sponsor at, and a race is coming up and you got to figure it out, funding, if something happens on the track, let's say a car breaks or wrecks or something like that, you're trying to figure out how to get it paid for, all these different things that happen. So definitely there's a stressful side of it. And then, other things on track, like communication, being able to radio communicate with your spotter and your crew chief and your team, while driving on the track. I learned how to communicate during, high stress times like that in the Navy on the ships. Teamwork, being able to work with a team, be able to provide good information and to receive good information and work together as a team to accomplish a mission. You learn that in the Navy. I applied that to what I was doing in racing, and then just, being able to present myself in a professional manner, whether it's on TV, on cameras, for other interviews, whatever it is. I learned that while being in the Navy, while being at the Naval Academy. I learned that I had that professional development side of me at the Academy and in the Navy, which I've translated now over to the NASCAR side of things.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit quickly. Were you one of those kids when you were young, your dad or your mom bought you a little car so that you can sort of kind of drive around? Is that where you got your inspiration? How did you start?
Yeah, that's that's one of them. Yeah, I think my dad bought us it was like a little, one of those little not remote control, but the ones where you can sit in to, you and another kid and you can drive. Yeah, the power wheels. Yeah, so he got us one of those, and I used to drive that. I used to love it. I used to watch the show Rider a long time ago. He used to come out. I used to watch the cartoon Speed Racer, and I used to watch some racing on TV. And I think that's where I started developing this passion for cars and racing. But I never thought I'd be doing it until, a few years ago when I finally decided that I wanted to do it.
Right. You also talked about a little bit about that you have to get, sponsors, So basically to get into NASCAR racing, you sort of kind of have to sponsor yourself, right? You have to go look out for sponsors. Is that how it works?
Yeah, when you're first getting into it, a lot of times, you're on your own. You're trying to figure out yourself. You probably got to sponsor yourself, whether, you have a really good job or you own your own business or you have really wealthy families. So, or you just got some people who like you a lot, then they're going to give you money to make it happen. But yeah, at first it was definitely difficult. And eventually, as we made some progressions, we started, finding other corporate sponsors, and that made life a little bit easier and allowed me to concentrate a little bit more on the actual racing aspect of things and trying to get better at driving.
And I think I read somewhere, or I saw a clip somewhere where you talked about, you also had to come up with your own finance. You have to sort of kind of create these corporations or companies.
Yeah, I started my own businesses. So
Yeah.
with me wanting to be a race car driver, that's what brought the entrepreneur spirit out of me. So I started my own businesses. The first one I started was the Red List Group, where I was hosting these drag racing events at tracks. And any that I made from that, I funneled it back towards, sponsoring myself in NASCAR. And then I eventually got into the trucking industry, where I started our own trucking company, and that's been going really well. I've used some of that to help sponsor myself in NASCAR. I've gotten into real estate stuff now also, and then also esports. We have a sim racing event company where we put on these simulated racing events, virtual reality, basically, using this software called iRacing. And we use it and put on these events, and people race in the events, and they can win cash prizes. And, but we've been able to figure out a way to monetize that too. So, it's a lot of different ways just to figure out a way to stay on track.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think the entrepreneurial spirit also comes from your parents, because I remember that your father also had little business on the side. So
yeah, both my dad and mom. My dad had a banquet hall that he was renting out to people for parties and stuff, and then my mom, she had her party supply business, and they kind of went hand in hand, because she would sell party supplies to people who wanted to put on events at the banquet hall. And the party supply business did well. We had it for years. I think the only reason they eventually got out of it was just time and stress. It got to a point where my mom was like, okay, I don't want to die early stress. So let me just, eventually got to a point where I think she made enough money from it that she was like, I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need to keep doing this.
Right. That's a good story to hear, especially for us here in the diaspora. That's an inspiring story. So Jesse, why do you think there aren't a lot of Black people in NASCAR?
I think
you and Bubba Wallace.
Yeah. I think it's mainly because just like I said before, it costs money to race. Unfortunately, tires and fuel and cars and people and transporting and travel is not free. I wish it was, but it's not. So it costs money. And I think that's why you don't see a lot of African Americans or minorities get into it, because, a lot of times, you look at, different minority communities. Sometimes they don't have a lot of funding there. They don't have a lot of great jobs, or they don't have this and that. They don't really have a lot of just they don't have the money. So you're looking at a kid maybe coming from a rough area, and they don't have the money to get into racing, but the football is inexpensive, and they get it. That's way simpler to do. And then you see a lot more people in football and basketball and all these other sports that look like them, so they just go naturally gravitate towards that. So I think that's why you don't see a lot. It's not that there aren't any others out there. There definitely are other minorities who are racing. It's just they don't. It's hard to get to the higher levels, because it gets more and more expensive the way the higher you go up, and you have to find those sponsors, or you just got to have a really rich mom and dad.
So any goals coming up with this Xfinity races?
Yeah, so the goal is to run some more Xfinity races this year, and then next year, my goal is what I'm aiming for is to run the full season next year. So just gotta continue to fight hard to put together the funding to make it all happen. But that's what I'm really aiming for next year, 2022, to run as much of that Xfinity season as I can. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
No, I think it's gonna work well. So so how do you prepare when you are in a race? How do you prepare yourself physically and emotionally?
For me, what I do
do you pray first? And some people believe that they pray, so you sort of kind of pump yourself like what's his name? Usain Bolt.
No, I don't do all that, but I do pray. Yeah, I pray before every race. Just ask for God's protection so that I don't get hurt. Pray every race. I make sure I hydrate well before races. I try to stay as calm as I can during the day. I don't want to get hyped. You really don't want to get too hyped because, then you start getting too jittery and you make mistakes. I want to be really calm and focused. That's the biggest thing, calm and focused. So that's what I aim for before the races.
As far as Africa is concerned, do you get to visit, before this pandemic? Do you guys keep your tribal culture?
Yeah. No, I haven't been able to visit in a long time. A very, very long time. I need to go back again. I'm trying to see if I can find a way to go back, maybe later this year or so, or maybe beginning of next year. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out, but yeah, I definitely want to go back.
Which tribe do you guys belong to in Nigeria?
We're Igbo tribe.
You guys Igbo? Yeah, I'm a little familiar with Igbos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit familiar with Igbos. I want to hear your thoughts, because I think even though you are not really, focused a lot on African, issues, I want to hear your thoughts on why Africa has so much riches, right? But most people are still sort of kind of struggling. Most African countries are importing goods from outside, e.g., the metal that we have, or the mineral that we have in our phones, cotton, right? They get it from DRC or from a northern part of Rwanda or Uganda, and then they bring us these phones and we buy them. Your thought on that?
Yeah, the struggles continues to happen because of the governments out there. The governments aren't good. They're not helping their people enough. A lot of people get into power. They're either corrupt or super greedy, and that's what happens. I mean, there's no reason in the world these African countries should be struggling. I think they have a lot of resources out there, and if they can actually have good ethics and good morals, they can actually disperse these resources in the right way, provide opportunities for a lot of jobs for people so they can work. And there's no reason in the world that the entire continent of Africa couldn't be thriving. There's a lot of things that can be done there. A lot of why not? But once again, the people in power over there have to do the right thing, and it's just very difficult to get good people in power out there. So I think that's it. I mean, I point the finger at the top. The top needs to figure it out so that the bottom can actually survive.
That's awesome. We have only a few minutes, but I don't want to skip this one right here. I want you to talk about vision and purpose, the importance of vision and purpose.
Yeah. So as far as vision and purpose, anytime you're going after any goal and dream, you got to have a clear vision of what you are trying to achieve. If you don't have that natural, clear vision, you don't really necessarily have a true goal. You can't start aiming. You can't just start walking in a certain direction and just think something good's going to happen. You have to clearly see what the end goal is, because when you clearly see it in your mind, like when it's a natural vision, that means the deal is already done. That means it actually is done in the future. It's complete. It's there. Now you just have to figure out the steps along the way to get there. And as long as you stay strong enough, long enough, you will get there. And that's that purpose. That purpose will derive from that clear vision. Clear vision will give you that purpose, because there won't be any purpose if you didn't clearly see the end.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So as a Black man living in this country, how do you deal with discrimination and racism? It doesn't stop. I mean, like, it almost seems like it's a cliche, but it's not really a cliche, because these things keep on happening,
Yeah. Yeah, no, things will always happen. At the end of the day, racism will never completely go away, but we can do what we can to minimize it, right? And I think the best ways of minimizing it is just, exposing it. When people see it, expose it. Make people feel uncomfortable with being racist. The more we make people feel comfortable with it, the more it's going to spread. But the more we make people feel uncomfortable with it, the more it's going to just die away. So it's not something that will ever completely go away. It's part of just human nature. I think everyone has some type of racism in them, whether they like it or not. They don't, and some people don't even know it. But it's just you got to look at how it is. Some people aren't going to always hate someone because of their color, but they might treat them in a certain way because of their color. Not that they hate them, but they'll treat them in a certain way. And you got to remember, that's kind of being racist. You're giving someone a certain level of treatment, whether it's good or bad, because of their color or maybe their religion or whatever it is. The more we can just treat people equally and just give everyone just an honest, just opportunity. Be like, hey, you know what? I don't care where you come from, what you look like, this and that. I'm gonna give you an honest opportunity because you're a human being, and judging you, and we need to all just move towards judging by character than judging by the looks or backgrounds or whatever.
Yeah. Jesse, for this last minute, your type of leadership, and also I want to hear your message of hope.
Yeah, as far as leadership, the biggest thing in leadership is, if you're ever going to lead any organization or group of people, the biggest thing is, be able to develop an efficient system. And when I say an efficient system, is a system of people who are able to accomplish a goal, who feel empowered to accomplish an overall mission, whether the quote unquote leader is there or not. When you can create that kind of system and the leader doesn't always have to be there to spark this fire, then you've created something that can last forever. But if you only have a group that they're only good when you're there, then you don't really have a system, because when you're not there anymore, it's just going to die away. So if you want to be a good leader, just create an efficient system where no matter what, you can plug and chug, whether you're there or someone else is there. It just, the system continues to work and grow with or without you. That, I think, right there is sufficient leadership. And then as far as message of hope, for anyone out there trying to go after any goals and dreams, don't let anybody's opinion of you become your reality. Make sure that you have the goal in your head. Only you can see it. No one else can see it for you. So just because no one else believes in it for you doesn't mean it's not possible. If you clearly have the vision in your head, then that means, only you have it. Like, no one else has it. Only you can see it for yourself. So, stay strong, never quit. And life will reward those who stay strong enough, long enough. Just remember that. Life will reward those who stay strong enough, long enough.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you, man.